Hello everyone, and welcome to the RV Inspection and Care channel. I'm Dwayne and I'm a certified RV inspector. Now today we're going to be talking about my 5 best tips for RV road trips. When you're getting on that road to get to the next destination, these are the 5 best tips I can give you. And by the way, this is just what works for Sherry and I. So if you find something that works for you, that's great. If you like the video, we really would appreciate it if you'd hit that subscribe button and become part of our online family that way. But let's go ahead and get started with my number 1 best tip for RV road trips. And that is this: don't be in a hurry. And I know that's hard to do sometimes because you feel like you've got to get out of this campsite, you got to get to the other one by a certain time, and so on. But you know, when you are in a hurry, there's a couple of things that really start to happen that aren't good. Number 1, the stress level starts to go right through the roof. And number 2, because of all that, mistakes start to be made. And because of those things, the joy of traveling in an RV really is reduced. And isn't that why we have our RVs in the first place? Is we want to be able to travel. We want to go places that we can't go in our sticks and bricks homes. So why not enjoy the journey and not just focus on the destination? Now, there's a few things we do to try to help with that. Number 1, we try to break camp in a relaxed and orderly way. And what do I mean by that? Well, number 1, we try not to get up too late, because if you get up late, then you're rushed. And when you get rushed, you start to get into that hurried mindset. So we get up early on our travel days. Have a little cup of coffee. Have a nice little breakfast. Enjoy the start of the day. And then we also like to use checklists as we're going through our preparation to leave. Why? Because checklists make sure that you're going to do everything the right way. You don't really have to think so much with a checklist. A checklist provides a means of being able to go through and get ready in a relaxed manner. So checklists are very important. Once you get on the road, another way to stop being in such a hurried mindset is to make good use of those rest stops. Sherry and I basically have a general rule that after we've been traveling for an hour, we look for a rest stop, and we'll get off and we'll go out, we'll stretch our legs, we'll go for a little exercise walk, maybe get a little snack, and then we're all set to get back in the RV and travel again. And you know what? Our mindset is so much better when we do that. So make good use of rest stops too. So that's my number 1 road trip tip. Don't be in a hurry. RV road trip number 2, and that is that we like to use the 3-3-300 rule when we're traveling. And what does all of that mean? Well, let's start with the first 3. We don't like to travel more than 3 days in a row when we're going anywhere. Now, I've had those long marathon trips, you know, when you're going across country. But what I found is that after 3 days, I'm starting to get really kind of worn out physically and mentally from all the travel. So what we try to do is no more than 3 days at a time on the road, and after that, we'll stop and rest up for a few days before we continue. Now, what's the 300 in that 3-3-300 rule? Well, I don't like to travel more than 300 miles a day. And I know for some of us, we like to get on the road and just see how far we can get. But I find for me that after 300 miles of travel, I'm starting to get weary. So I try not to travel more than 300 miles on the road in any one day. And the final 3 is to get to my destination by 3 o'clock. Now, if you stop and think about that, if you take that relaxed early morning routine. You know, you get up a little early, you have your coffee, you have your breakfast, you go through your checklist, and then you leave out by around 9 o'clock. it takes about 6 hours to go 300 miles if you count a couple of stops and some lunch along the way. So 9 o'clock, 6 hours later, is 3 o'clock in the afternoon. Why do I want to get there by 3? Well, I want to avoid being there too late, especially when it's getting dark. You don't want to get to your next destination in the dark and have to get an RV into a cramped or tight website in the dark. You want to be sure you can get there early enough to handle any problem that you might face and get set up in a relaxed and orderly way. And that way you can really enjoy your dinner that evening. So the 300 rule really works for us, and maybe it would for you as well. My third RV road trip: plan ahead. You know, this is especially important for big rigs, and we have a larger motorhome. So when we travel, we found that if we plan ahead, we can avoid a lot of problems, a lot of issues that if we didn't and just flew by the seat of our pants, we could get into a lot of trouble that way. So there's a few tools that I use to make sure that I can plan ahead. One of my favorite ones is an online website called RV Trip Wizard. It's not expensive. It's only about $39 a year at the time of this video, and it will allow you to plan out your trip day by day, especially if you're going on a long trip. It will tell you on that trip where the gas stations, where the rest stops, where the campgrounds are, all along the route. And then once you've made all those notations on the trip, it'll let you print it right out and take it with you. And I've found that program to be really invaluable. But now, here's another thought along this line: is don't always rely on just electronic means for trip planning. What I mean, don't just rely on online mapping or GPS mapping and things like that. We also have a road atlas, and let me tell you, sometimes just having a map in front of you is a big help. Something right there in front of your face that can't go away if you lose your internet connection. So plan ahead and use good tools to do that. That kind of leads into tip number 4, and that's really about knowing what is at the next exit when you're on the road. If you get off the highway in an RV, sometimes if you get off on the wrong exit, you can really get into some trouble quickly. And even if you don't do that, you can waste a lot of time looking for things like food and so on that is going to take away from your time that you should be on the road. So there's a couple of tools I use to know what's coming up at every exit when I'm on the highway. One is a book called The Next Exit, and Sherry uses that a lot as she is helping me with planning out the road trip. And as we're going down the highway, she's looking at that book and telling me what's coming up if we're looking for something, especially a place to eat. And that way we'll know in advance where to get off and what we're going to find at that exit. Now, if you don't like using a book or a printed material, there's also a great app called iExit, and it gives you the same information. The whole point is, and tip number 4 is, don't just get off the highway and waste time at exits. Know what you're getting when you get off. My tip number 5 is, before you get on the highway, stow anything that can move around in your RV. And this is important because there's all sorts of little items that if you don't stow them correctly on the road while you're bouncing down the road, they're going to come out and make a mess in that RV. So before you go, tie it down, strap it down, tape it down, Velcro it down, or put it on the bed or the couch if it's like a TV or something. but make sure that you have your items in the RV stowed properly. The last thing you want is to get to your destination and get out and then realize, oh, there's this huge mess in the RV that you've got to clean up after that long day of travel. And we've had it happen. So it's an important tip is make sure you stow things properly before you leave. Give it some extra thought. Well, those are the 5 best RV road tips that I can give you as an RVer. And I hope what I've shared with you has been very helpful. If it has, I'd appreciate it if you like the video on YouTube, because that really helps us YouTube creators. If you have something that you can share with us about RV road trips and things that have worked for you, some experiences you've had that have been beneficial, then please share your experience with us in the comments below. We'd really love to hear from you. And finally, once again, please become part of our online family. Subscribe, hit that subscribe button, and that way you won't miss any of the videos that we're releasing on a weekly basis like this. Well, that's it for now. Have safe and happy travels, my friends. Until next time.